Hi everybody, Conrad Zimmerman here, answering some more of the questions off of my Ask FM page. If you want to ask a question, you can just go ahead and hit the thing there, and that will give you a box and you can type one in and it sends it to me, and that's how I get them. So let's get started. Where do you buy most of your games? GameStop, Amazon, digital, ma and pa stores? I used to buy the majority of my games from smaller chain used game stores, and now it's almost exclusively online. I don't think I've bought a game in a store in more than a year now. Yeah, I don't think so. I buy most of my games on Steam. I like having it all centralized in one place. The sales are exceptional. The prices are very fluid there, so it's easy to get a good deal as long as you're paying attention. And since I'm always being told when stuff's on sale, it's really easy for me. So yeah, and that's pretty much what I do now. When I'm not buying from Steam, I'm usually buying from Amazon. The only exception to that would be if I were looking for some older, rare thing, and then I'd probably go to eBay. I do like crawling through used game stores looking for treasures and such, but I haven't done it in a while. There's just not much need. Speaking of Steam, the next question: how much is your Steam account worth? How often do you buy games at full price there? Well, to start with, I never buy games at full price on Steam. That's just, there's so many sales. It almost always seems to be a promotion that there doesn't seem ever a reason to pay full price for a game. There may be some exceptions to this where I've just said, screw it, I'm going to buy it and I don't care if it's on sale. But I can't recall it happening. There's just too many good promotions. There are too many opportunities to buy stuff on Steam at a great price. So as for how much my Steam account is worth, I did go to one of those Steam account checker things to get a value, and it said it was something like $2,400, which I guess says a lot about the volume of games I have on Steam. I think I have something like 84 games on Steam, and but I guess the question of what something's worth is just kind of weird. I don't know that my Steam account is worth as much to someone else as it is to me. Something is worth what someone's willing to pay you for it, or what you're willing to accept for it in exchange, in kind. So I don't know that my Steam account's worth anything. I'm sure, yeah, I could probably sell it on the standard that, it's got these 84 games available, and that has value to someone, but I really don't think of it in those terms. Next question. I've been getting into GOG.com lately. Are there any hidden gem old PC games you would recommend on the service? Yes. GOG.com used to formerly Good Old Games, now GOG.com, because they do more than just good old games. I loved the service when it launched, and still think it's a great service for that matter, but I was thrilled when it launched because it meant that I could finally get rid of that laptop I'd been hanging on to because I could run Fallout on it. That made me so happy. And there's a lot of great games that they've made possible to run through DOSBox integration and so forth on modern PCs there. Things that I would recommend people go and check out that you can get on GOG: the Alone in the Dark trilogy, which is sort of like the forefather survival horror games. It's a really, really cool, creepy, especially the first one it's a Lovecraftian story. Very, very cool. Kind of ugly. But it was, the first game I'd ever played that had forced camera angles in 3D, and just unsettling. That one's fun. Another game I would say you should look at is Cannon Fodder. It's sort of an arcadey shoot-'em-up type thing. You've got a unit of very weak little infantry soldiers that you have to take through various missions It's cute. It visually still stands up because the sprites are really kind of basic and simple, but cartoony. So it still looks not bad for its age. And it's a fun arcade game. There's 2 Cannon Fodder games up on GOG. I don't think I've ever played the sequel, though. And then finally, Relentless Twinson's Adventure, I think, or Twinson's Odyssey. It's also known as Little Big Adventure. You can get that on GOG. I'm actually going to do a video of that pretty soon because I really do like that game a lot, and I think that there's some interesting, fun stuff about it. Really well written, visually interesting. It's old 3D, so it doesn't like. They didn't go so much for realism, but they've got these sort of kind of defined character styles so that they make work within the constraints of 3D. Kind of neat, all voiced too, which was surprising. I didn't remember that about it. But yeah, cool game, Little Big Adventure. It's like $3, and there's the sequel on there also. Good games. Next question. How often do you replay games? Do you ever see yourself giving up on new games and just replaying old favorites? Yeah, I doubt that's going to happen just because there is such a constant flow of new stuff to try and play, and so many new ideas always being tested and new boundaries being pushed, and that fascinates me to no end. But at the same time, I haven't broadened my musical horizons in the last 5 years or so. Like, I've stopped listening to new music, and Pandora's made that really, really easy for me, because I just have, like my Talking Heads playlist, and it just plays Talking Heads and other 80s music, and a few other just tidbitty things, a lot of David Bowie in there. So I wind up just listening to stuff I know I already like, for the most part. I very rarely get exposed to new music. And so it's possible that I could reach a point with games, particularly if I ever stop writing about or working in the games industry, it could be possible to sort of lose track of what the trends are and what's new, and not really play new stuff. But I don't think I'll ever stop playing games. So it could happen. I don't replay games as often as I used to, and part of that is down to just having ready access to so many games. Of course, there are those exceptions of games that are just infinitely replayable, like Spelunky, which you can see me replaying over and over and over again on this channel, or now Risk of Rain. I'm playing that over and over and over again. But that's not exactly the same thing as going back to an old game, like a beloved book. I don't do that quite as much. Mega Man 2's the one game I think that I do that the most frequently with, and that's just because I can knock it out in 45 minutes and go on and do something else. Next question. How is the Dismal Jesters podcast faring? Is there anything you'd like to change about it? I think it's doing very well. The numbers are quite good in terms of listeners. It seems like we brought over the entirety of the Podtoid audience in terms of if you were just looking at raw statistics, which is far, far better than I could have hoped for. In terms of the success of that podcast. And people seem to like it. The Facebook group community is thriving. We've got these great people helping us out with the Dismal Jesters Twitter. Preposterous Whitey, I believe, runs that, and a few other people. So I think the podcast itself is doing very, very well. And just for context, I should have said this before, because there might be some people who have no idea what the hell I'm talking about. The Dismal Jesters is a podcast that I do every week with my friends Jonathan Holmes and Jim Sterling, and it is not something you should listen to. I don't recommend it. If you have any sort of image of me as a dignified adult human being and wish it to remain so, that is just something to outright avoid under all circumstances. But it's doing very well. Is there anything I'd like to change about it? Not really, because to be perfectly honest, the podcast is just sort of, and it was in the Podtoid days, just a stream of consciousness of whatever Jim or Holmes are thinking about. I think about things they're thinking about. I don't come into the show knowing where things are going to go. I don't plan things, and I really like listening to what Jim and John come up with, and then contributing to that. And I've always sort of felt that that was my role in that. So I don't want to necessarily change anything. I think there are more things that I could bring to it. The movie pitches, I could be coming up with some more of those, and hope to do that down the road. It's just, those are things that, like everything else on that podcast, it's when I think it would be funny, I'm down for it. And that's always been the goal, is to just try and make something that's funny, if completely and utterly wrong. One more question. Have you always been an avid reader, or was there a specific book that got you excited about reading? I've always been a reader. There have been times in my life where I read less, or at least I read different things, but I've always been a very avid reader. There, have certainly been periods of time where I wasn't reading books so much, but that didn't mean I wasn't reading. I was reading a lot more news and articles and editorials and journalism stuff, and all of that is, it's still, we read so much, and we don't even realize how much we read. And how much we absorb and learn and gain through just our casual everyday reading. And so there have been periods of my life where I've watched a lot more TV than I do now, but and read less books, but I've always been avid when it came to reading. And I think that just comes down to my parents read to me every night. When I was a child, and I eventually wanted to do the reading myself. I wanted to understand it for myself, and once that became a thing and I was able to read anything I wanted to, more or less, I was able to seek out other stuff, and my curiosity took hold, and I could get to see what other writing and readable content there was. And when you find something so endless and limitless like that, and you have a curiosity for it, it's hard not to get sucked in. And that's really, I think, more than anything, I can't point to any specific book that made me a lifelong reader. I can think of books that I was read, I can think of books that I read, but I can't say that there's any one thing that did it. I think it was just that the limitless possibility of reading struck a chord with me from a very, very young age, and has never really let go. So, anyway, that's it for our questions. If you have a question, don't forget to hit the link right there, the ask.fm/Conrad Zimmerman, and you can ask me a question on the page. And you can also go and follow me on Twitter. It's twitter.com/Conrad Zimmerman, and keep up with my goings on. And subscribe to the channel. Check out some of the gameplay videos. Just launched a new series with my lovely wife and I. We're playing some Legend of Dungeon. We'll be playing some other games together. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. She's just an absolute delight, and I'm so happy that she was willing to do it with me. So, thanks so much for watching, and we will see you next time.